Hello.
Hey, my old friend, how you doing?
Hey, bud. What you up to today?
Well, I'm sitting down here on the pond bank, and it's the middle of spring, and these weeds are getting pretty thick out here, so I figured I might as well wade off into it. What do you think about it?
Man, if you're going to be wading off in them weeds, there's a bunch of weeds we could be wading off into. Have you seen some of the new information on Delphi, any of the new theories, man? We read some pretty interesting ones the other day.
Yeah. I think it's changing something now. Last night, I don't know about you. You may have done it too. I don't know. But I watched that Kristin Behind the Crime Door, and she had on Perry. Oh my Lord, his name is escaped me. But he was a detective, and he works with I think maybe Utah or something like that. But he's with another police department. And this guy, he kind of goes on and he talks about things, and he said some things that kind of really shook up the bucket. And basically, as a detective, one of the first things he said is that, look, all this stuff with TK and KK and all that stuff, he said that was put out there, and he doesn't know exactly why. This is his opinion. Again, these are just opinions, you know. But he's like, if it was put out there, that part's already done. It's kind of like whenever they make an arrest. Hopefully, today could be the day. Whenever they make an arrest, it's going to be different. But I want to go deeper into it. You ready to do that?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you know, just comment on your thing. I mean, I agree with you. You know, some of the things that we get and see, you know, a lot of those are declassified basically because, well, they're kind of through investigating. You know, so I can see where you're seeing some of this. But, I mean, how deep you want to get, man? I mean, like I said, because you've been digging into some I haven't done a lot of research on, so I'd like you to get as deep as possible. Go ahead, brother.
Well, you know, here's where I've been. After I heard this guy talking last night, he even said that he doesn't even think it has to be he doesn't think it has to be a male. He doesn't think bridge guy has to be a guy. And he said that one of his POIs is a female. And I'm like, you know, I went through that phase for a while. And then he was talking to other things about, you know, maybe there was someone who did it. There was a cover up locally there, and it kind of threw police off. And then somehow things changed in 2019. They went down a different road, and then we assumed in 2022 that road was TK and KK. Okay, all right. So with me, you know, one of the things I picked up on, he said, was he was talking about meth and drugs being involved. If you go back to our first episode,
right?
You know, before we got into the weeds of TK and KK, those conspiracies, we were talking about the guy he's talking about again, okay, or the person could be a female. Who knows? Yeah,
because I mean, you know how it is. I mean, rural areas are rife with a lot of these drug problems, especially some of those high transport areas. So, yeah, it's referring back to some of the things that could have been people transporting through the area, drifters, because of the drug issues in those areas. I mean, we live in an area that's a rural that has meth use, and that kind of thing. So you're right.
That's right. And some of the people that he's talking about, and some of the girls' family were involved in drugs. And they were, as far as I'm going to go into, there's been a lot of prison. There's been a lot of connectedness with stuff. So, I mean, it's not really for me to wade off into. But I know, just like from a long time ago, drugs have been in that area. I remember talking about Shannon Hoon with Brian Mellon, and he was covering that Hoyt Axton song called The Pusher. And it's like I smoked a lot of grass, and I popped a lot of pills, but I've never done the thing that my soul couldn't heal. And I walk around with these tombstones in my eyes. But I know the pusher, the drug pusher, or the Bible pusher, don't care if you live or if you die. And, that was Shannon interpreting that area a long time ago. And we know another one of the first episodes you and I did together on this Delphi thing was talking about the crime rate there. Like an average city in America was rated at 69 and Delphi was 37. So there was this unsolved violent crime in that area, which gave it a lower number than a lot of places. And this is not new. We're talking about Shannon Hoon was the 1990s, early 1990s. And he was talking about like we've talked about the terroir of whiskey or whatever else, but Shannon was describing the terroir of where he came from and what he existed on. So drugs in those little towns, and they're all across the United States of America, all across the central part of America. There's drugs everywhere, and people get on those drugs and do some crazy things.
Yeah, because, I mean, hey, in these little rural areas, I mean, come on. These people that, take the meth, let's just be honest, they wouldn't take maybe LSD, and most back when LSD and those kind of things were invented, they were created by nerds in a dang lab. This is redneck scientists. They're using, heat and ammonia and crap they've scavenged and, to create this shit. So, I mean, it's but hey, people just gobble it up. Well, I trust him. He's a great cook. Really? He finished third grade? And we do live in those areas. It's sad to, to say that is the perception of those areas. I know. We live in this exact same type of area. So, I mean, hey, I know of what I speak because we live in the same type of area. But now, in this case, we're also talking about, we're more concerned of trying to solve the murder of two young girls and making the awareness. Then we're talking about a drug issue. But I agree the drug issue is probably a big part of it because of, without going into, again, the people's names and the specifics. If you know the name of the shows that you had listened to, somebody can go actually listen to them if they want to.
Yeah.
But the specifics of it, are interesting in pointing out that that there could be a cover-up. There could be, multiple drug issues that led to these cover-ups. Now whether it be because of friends, just not believing someone could do that and they lying for them, creating false alibis, or kind of like, we had pointed out in a few of our, previous casts that, there could be some official type corruption, cover-upping going on. And if some folks go and hunt down the particular theory we're talking about, whether, we don't particularly always subscribe to all of them, but it's interesting to consider, they'll see that, if that part is true, and if you look at those evidences, there's a good chance that, there could have been a cover-up that describes the ineptitude and some of the inconsistencies and mistakes we've seen. So now what about you? Now, how about you on that theory? What do you think about those, particular ones?
Let's dig into it, because you have like the guy Perry, whatever his name is, on that show last night. That meth stuff was created and really materialized, metastasized, if you want to say, in places where there's those kill plants, and there's one there in Delphi. There's a slaughtering plant, and there's around here, and that's a cold, hard, ruthless place, and a lot of people they're working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. You get off on meth, and it's not just processing plants. It's truck drivers. There's traditionally a lot of people have got tired. And even today, people are taking meth for the first time, and what with meth is trouble. Everybody that you tie that stuff up with alcohol, and you tie it up with someone who's already having they're in a very bad place. There's crimes everywhere. People are corrupt. Stuff happens. So and I think that's kind of what a lot of people are saying now, is that there was some drug tie-ins, something happened, and people have a natural proclivity to protect their children or their grandchildren or their nephew or who the fuck ever. People they have a natural proclivity to try and save people, and sometimes when you do that, you cover up other things. And that's kind of what the guy was just implying. Now, I don't know how true it is or not, but it seems like the tide of the TKKK is turning toward more of it's going back to that focus of there's someone local or been there before, as opposed to someone over in Peru. I don't know. I'm just trying to breathe the air that's around it right now, because it seems like the tide has turned from this TKKK business to something else. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, we've discussed the fact that, it's popular theory, and popular theory just means somebody has fed a tidbit or a rumor or a half-truth to somebody, and there's been enough attention that it's become a theory. The important part about it is if you know this particular one, there is at least it's not off the wall. We've heard some that's, you've got people hiding in the woods, and it would take a conspiracy of 6 people to attack these 2 girls to do some of the things we see. And, a lot of that is, hey, it's sensationalism, and I know folks listen to these for entertainment as well as, those things, and I'm all for that. Please, no one be offended, because that is not my intent. But I know my intent for us discussing this is more awareness. I love viewers. I want comments. I want feedback. I love doing this kind of thing with my friend here. But at the same time, I want justice. And going back to your comment, now that I'm going to kick my soapbox a little to the side, you're talking about the people going nuts. If people don't know, again, I've never personally used methamphetamines in any shape, form, or fashion, but it has been integrated in my life. I won't say who or how or the relationships. But I understand. I mean, by the time somebody stays up for 3 days on something cooked by a redneck chemist, that you'd have no clue of what extra goodies have been left or produced or introduced into it, you get a hodgepodge of crazy. 3 days of no sleep with crazy. I mean, yes, people will do stuff they would not ever normally do, but it's one of those things of, like you say, if this is a cover-up and the natural inclination to protect someone, whether they're a family member, even if they think they did it, it is there because that's human nature. But there's a justice side of it, human nature of, well, there's got to be the sense of you messed up and you've got to man up or woman up or person up, depending, and accept that. So now if that happens, everybody involved, if there was a cover-up, well, they're just as guilty, which, of course, we know that's true. But the person that did it, or even the people who are helped covering it up, should start to realize that, come on, there's got to be some justice here, regardless of the good intention, especially when, according to this new theory and the supposed actual documentation that is involved, it leads to a fairly reasonable assumption of that may be the actual case as it sits at the moment. But we do still have to take that with a grain of salt. It is still, we have to think of when they release some of these things, it's already fairly old and dated, unless it is just a randomly somebody stole, which makes it illegal and that kind of thing. I don't believe that. I mean,
that's not the case. That is not, that shit was released out there and it was squirrel, run, dog. That's all that
right. I got you.
Kept people busy for a while. That's what I believe. And I just don't think that's it. I mean, people have tried to place those guys there, but those guys, and then they want to start adding 5 and 6 people to it, and there's people under bridges and gang initiation. I mean, it's just crazy shit. Whenever Occam's razor, again, says that the most complete answer is one that's easy to get to. Of course, in that area, that place is now as popular. But back in 2017, 2016, whenever this stuff was going down or about to go down, and of course, the new theory is I don't think it's a new theory. I think it's just rolling back to where people were at another point in time. It's just that you get all these rabbit holes down because of the way this investigation is going from the ISP and from Carroll County. They've helped promote this whole social media craze, or they've had to deal with it. Maybe not promote it, but deal with it, which I think they've had to control the narrative, to do all the things they need to do. And I don't know how it's going to come out. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, it just doesn't – I mean, I think they're close. But even Doug Carter, the ISP supervisor, he's like, everybody's going to be surprised when they see how this thing turns out. Anyway, I don't know. I think we come back around to this is our 12th discussion on this thing.
Yeah.
So the first 11 was the magic number. We went a full circle, and now at 12, we're kind of back really where we started, without all the sensationalism of all this Murder Sheets releases. After all the hype and all that goes down from it, like you said, that the person that was being interviewed by the police, he didn't really say anything, and they didn't really ask him anything other than, did you do it? And they said, oh, excuse me, that you didn't do it, because they can lie. And I don't know. I just don't think that's I never have believed that those two are the answer to this thing. I just don't buy that. And the big swing now is that it's probably more tied to drugs. It's probably more tied to, like you said, been up 3 days, maybe just got out of prison. I think there was a person there, I'm not going to mention any name, but somebody there that just got out of prison. And if you look at Bridge Guy and that person that just got out of prison, I'm going to tell you right now, you want to talk about a match. It's my opinion. There's a really good match. But anyway, that's all I got on it, man. I just wanted to stir the soup a little bit.
Well, I mean, I understand, and I believe you brought us some very valid, points and stuff. I don't know enough about some of the new introductions, but I would like to, add, not to discount. They can release some things that are pertinent and they appear red herrings. Now, that interview with the thing, yes, if anybody's interested, please refer back to one of our previous ones. I hate that I do not know which one. We had the discussion of I thought it was kind of a red herring because they didn't really tell you anything in that interview, and that was the murder sheet. I was just kind of skeptical. But now with this one here, it's a little more well thought out and maybe from someone that could have access to a little inside information if what he claims his credentials are accurate and true. Now, I'm not calling the man a liar because I do not know who it is, but, hey, credentials tell you a lot of stuff, and the internet can be anybody on the other end of the name, which is the same thing. Goes back to the catfishing we were referring to in this case. So, but the theory seems well thought, and some of the evidence does kind of point to it. So it's at least worth a cursory look, if you're into this case.
It's a roving dialogue, and it's all you always got to be positive because you never know where it's going to go. I'd like to be able to be in. I don't want to be the one to stop. And I know I'm not going to be because I don't know enough information. But I sure would like to be on the right scent. I'd like to be chasing down the right thing. Because I want it to be solved. I guess it really. I want it to be solved. And of course, every angle is like, well, maybe that makes sense. And whatever it is, until the next time, let's just get it solved.
I'll give you what I think we both want. We would love to be the unsung hero just because we knew. But we know that's just, hey, everybody that does these won't. No, I mean, everybody that does these wants that. But I think the appreciation really goes to, in the end of the day, I mean, we want justice for these girls. We just want to raise some awareness. It would be awesome if we helped in some small fashion. Maybe, made somebody think about something that led to a breakthrough. Don't know, but I think that's what you was trying to say, Brad, and I absolutely agree with you, my friend. If it's helped anybody do anything, it's great. But let's just raise the wire and get some justice for them. All right, bud, I know we're running real short on time, so, All right, man.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk to you. We'll holler at you later, my friend.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.